Welcome everybody, hello and welcome to this live stream. Hope you guys are doing well. And it's a beautiful day out here today. I'm just checking to see if all of my platforms are up. So Kick is up. Let's see if Twitter's up. I don't know what's going on with Instagram. I think Instagram is up too. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Everything's up. How's everybody doing? Thanks for watching the live stream. This one is up, so the shorts one is up, and that one's up too. Hello, happy Saturday, We got a few fun topics to talk about today. If you're watching, by the way, so I'm simultaneously streaming across a bunch of different platforms. So depending on which one you're watching, I'm doing, so every Saturday at 12 o'clock, we do a live stream on YouTube Shorts, YouTube Live, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Kick, and I'm trying to get Rumble on, but Rumble, I have to do some adjustments, so maybe we'll do that next week. But here we go. All right, so you guys seen the thumbnail, right? We're going to talk about some cute pandas who obviously, so this is actually the second time this year that some zoos in China, they've disguised their dogs, painted them as white and black, and turned them into panda dogs. So here's the video. I find this so cute. I don't know what breed this is. Chow Chows? According to this tweet, it's Chow Chows. I don't even know if the dogs realize that they're being treated like pandas now. So the story is that this zoo, because apparently they didn't have any pandas, that they wanted still to be in on the funds of having pandas, that they basically painted dogs and chose them to be the replacements. In fact, if you go and read some of the articles on this, I think the New York Post did one, where they essentially said that, oh, by the way, I don't know why my internet is a little bit stuttering. Let me see here. We might, I don't know, are you guys getting a good internet connection on YouTube? Because it's on YouTube, it's telling me that the live stream is not as, the quality is not as good. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, let me know how the quality is. I think other places are fine, like Instagram looks okay. Looks normal on YouTube? Okay. Maybe it's just me then. Alright, at least YouTube. Oh, can you put some ice? There it is. Why is it so hot? Okay, alright. I'm just getting some coffee. Okay, so yeah, according to this article, the zoo had dyed the Chow Chows to be like, let me zoom this out a little bit. So they dyed these Chow Chow dogs because apparently they were denied the privilege of having pandas. There's some other photos too. If you look at this one here, it says like in this brochure of the zoo that they are actively promoting a panda dog meet and greet. It's a bit glitchy. Seems to be running smoothly now. Yeah, I don't know. Like on my end, the other YouTube program, it might just be because I have a 1 gig internet from Verizon. But I'm not sure if it actually is working as intended, because I feel like it's really not that fast. Like on the speed test, obviously it tells you, it's like, oh, you're hitting, 900 megabytes of upload and download speed, but in reality, I don't know if it actually goes there. Anyways, okay, so people are like pretty mad because this, like, remember I did a video on the whole robot thing where they basically got these models, dressed them up as robots, and pretended like, oh yeah, these are real robots. Basically, they're like everybody can tell that they're not real robots. They're people cosplaying, but it's the people that they really didn't tell them about, what the situation is, and people thought it was real robots. Now this time it's a little bit different in the sense that they have a promotion that says you can meet the panda dogs, but like I think everybody is expecting pandas, not panda dogs. So the same thing happened last year too. Not last year, in May this year too. This was at a different zoo. This was in the Taizhou Zoo, which they also got different dogs. If you look here, that's a different breed of dogs painted as well. I did cover this in the shorts, yeah. But I thought I'd just show it because it's hilarious. And I think it's like one of those things, yeah, sure, it's fake, but it's pretty cute, right? And I wouldn't mind seeing it. Is it animal cruelty? Hiroshi Nagoya says, when this is animal cruelty, where is PETA when it's needed? Alright, so there's that little cute panda situation. From my perspective, I think like it honestly, like these zoos in China, I don't get why they can't get pandas because, clearly these pandas are being exported out to other countries. Maybe that's precisely the reason because, they are being exported out and apparently they don't get enough pandas in China anymore because the pandas are pretty dumb, right? So maybe they're going extinct, who knows. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. Like nothing like screams pandas. They clearly look like dogs too. When I was younger in China, they used to sell these little chicks. Like you can buy, they're painted different colors. So you can buy them in blue, purple. You can buy them in red colors. And so you buy them pretty cheap. Like you can get them for maybe, like 3-4 of them for like 20 yuan, which is, a few bucks. And you take them home. So my grandma would raise them. And when they grow up, obviously the feathers, the colors start to fade and they become real chicken. So one year when I was still young, I went back and maybe I can find a photo of this to show you what it looks like. But basically they're like small chicks that you can grow them up. Yeah, they're like this. Let me show you. So they look something like this. Jan Wilson, thanks for the $5. Oh, why would if they fool their own people and make things so cheap? That makes people not like its brand. Go figure. Keep up with good work. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'll show you this here. This is what I bought in China. So they paint these little chicks to all sorts of different colors, and you can buy them on the streets too. And you take them home. Some of them they're done pretty well in the sense that you can keep them alive. Other ones, because the coloring is poisonous to them, after a few days they're done. But the ones that I bought when I was younger, my grandpa would raise them and they become actual, like chicken, and you can either, get eggs or do whatever else with them. But yeah, China does this stuff a lot. Like they love painting the animals to fake them as something else. Now clearly this is for kids because it's, colorful. Instead of just a regular yellow feather, they can have all sorts of different colors. Pretty interesting. Adjust my webcam. What happened with my webcam? Is it too high? Yeah, the video might be kind of choppy because I'm streaming a bunch of stuff, but I have a 1 gig internet, so I don't know why it's choppy. Maybe it's choppy for some people. Who knows?
据说是台州的小熊猫。据说是台州的小熊猫。
Okay, so that's a fun topic to start, but I want to talk about something else that's been happening in China. So as you guys might know, recently there was a 10-year-old boy in China that was attacked, and essentially, you know, he was brutally murdered, and then this became a big story, right? And so people were wondering, like, why does this exist in China? Well, you have videos like this, where in classrooms, the teacher indoctrinates the kids from a very young age about hating Japan. And then that's what leads to situations like this. Now, this is a video that the teacher is teaching them. So this is before they're supposed to do like a class assignment to write a letter to the Japanese Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida. So they're teaching them all sorts of things to hate about Japan, like them launching satellites, it's bad. Obviously the historical invasion is bad. Everything has to do with hating Japan. And every teacher in China does this because, we talk about in the West for the college to indoctrinate, teaching, a lot of them are now teaching like socialist agenda. In China, it's like anti-Japanese agenda is a must. And then you also have some of the videos which I posted about. Like, look at this one. This is what the kids do at school. You have some of the kids play as the People's Liberation Army, and you have the people who play as the Imperial Japanese soldiers. And obviously the People's Liberation Army will win, and then they go on and they win, raise the flag, right? Nobody does this around the world except in China. And it's like, it happens a lot at different schools too. So this is just one video. Then you have another one like this, where the kids are so brainwashed when they see the Japanese team on screen. They're like, I'll kick you to death, bad Japanese, all these things. Hey man, really appreciate your content from a fellow Chinese person. Thank you, thank you. Okay, and then you also have things like this, where they're actively stomping, on the flag of Japan because that's what they're taught to do. They're taught to hate this. And this type of stuff, it almost becomes a voluntary reaction for kids now in China. Like, even when I was back in China, I hated the Japanese because that's what we were told. They were all evil people. It's dehumanization, and it's to victimize their own population in the sense that everything that's bad about China happens because of Japan, right? Because of the United States. You have this, where they openly put on the street a punching doll in the form of a Japanese soldier, and the kids just go and, take out their anger. Like, instead of a punching bag, they have this. And this is like a daily occurrence in China, So, Sayuri says, I watch this channel almost every day to understand why. I don't know if you're Japanese, but yeah, I try to explain to people why China has this ingrained hate for Japan. And obviously, there's the history there. There's no, avoiding that, right? Japan invaded China, everybody knows that. But I think it's way past time to kind of move on from that, because today's people in Japan, they have nothing to do with Imperial Japan. So the question becomes, why is it that the CCP is always maintaining this idea that people today in Japan still have something to do with Japanese historical past, other than the fact that they need to maintain this idea that there's always an enemy of the state, which is Japan. So this guy, he's clearly a CCP propagandist, CCP shell, and this is what he wrote on Twitter. Okay, if you're on the vertical stream, okay, you can still see it. So he's like, oh yeah, I condemn the crimes, of this Chinese man who attacked the student in China. But then he goes on to say that listing 4 of the incidents that happened in Japan where a Chinese person or Chinese people were involved, He's saying that how on November 9th, 2023, a Chinese woman was beaten to death by two Japanese men in Matsudo City in Chiba Prefecture, Japan. Second one is July 22nd, 2024. 53-year-old Chinese tourist was stabbed by a Japanese man in Osaka. April 16th, 2024, a Japanese-Chinese couple was burned to death in Tochigi, Japan. And February 2024, a 17-year-old Chinese student drowned in Japan. Police determined it to be a homicide case involving 5 Japanese criminals. So his whole argument here is that these hate crimes happen in Japan too, and they're targeting Chinese people. Okay, I'm not saying that these are not bad. These are obviously should be condemned, except let's take a look at 2 important details here. The Japanese government and the Japanese police will carry out an open investigation, a thorough open investigation, where they will eventually catch the criminal. But if you really compare what's been happening in China, the cases where Japanese people were attacked, or the case that the 4 Americans were attacked, we still to this day have not gotten a transparent investigation from the Chinese authority, right? We don't even know the names of the criminal that were involved. So if the Japanese government or the authorities can catch them, I'm sure we'll know publicly who did what, and those crimes should be condemned. But let's not forget, we just showed you videos of people, kids, indoctrinated to hate Japan so much. It's almost like it's inevitable for China, for the society in China, to produce these hate crimes because it's the result of brainwashing. You don't see Japanese school kids doing this, right? Not doing, what this... where is it? You're not seeing the Japanese kids do this. You're not seeing this in broad daylights on the streets of Japan. You're not seeing this stuff. This is what's happening in China. Hyperden says PTSD from World War II. Well, but the thing is, like, the CCP didn't even fight World War II. They fought the Nationalist Party after the Nationalist Party had used all of their resources to defeat Japan. Wayne Renatus says, what's the solution if they're so indoctrinated? Honestly, this is a great question, and my only answer is that when they grow up, they can use the outlets like VPNs and stuff to, explore the outside world and see for themselves what it's like outside of the firewall. Never thought you would be streaming on a begging and free Robux site? I don't know what you're talking about. Why are Kay Lizzie says, why are our robotic vacuums connected to servers in China? I'm not so sure, actually. Are you talking about Chinese-made ones? Because if you're talking about Chinese-made ones in general, all of them, they have like a back door, right? That comes with phones, your smart fridge, smart TVs, internet, modem, everything. Like, they all have back doors. If that's what you're talking about, yeah, exactly. Those things are definitely dangerous. Thanks for the chats on Twitch, by the way. I'm watching all the other platforms as well. And so if I'm just taking a moment to pause, I'm just doing that. Hoenwin says, that's weird. Japanese import from China exceeded 170 billion this year, including nuclear parts. Doesn't sound like a bad relationship. So Japan is heavily reliant on China in the economic side, that's for sure. But the reality, it's like a dual sort of parallel relationship in that the national security side and the tension between the two countries is also at an all-time high, right? Same thing with the U.S. and China. The U.S. still imports a lot of stuff from China, but it doesn't mean the tension isn't there. Okay, so speaking of this, I have some other stuff to show you too. So this is a skit from a school play again. A lot of these are done in the schools. Just take a look at what's happening. Again, you got the kids playing Imperial Japan. So basically, these are the stuff that they're performing in Chinese schools. Instead of, doing something like classical Chinese culture stuff, right? Poems. There's like a lot of Chinese poem histories, Chinese heroes. Like a lot of those things can be done, except they love to play into this whole anti-Japanese stuff. So imagine this, right? When you're a kid, you grow up in China, and you don't have any other sorts of information. What do you think you're going to subconsciously feel all the time? Is that anything wrong with China has to be because it's something wrong with Japan, and then they're the ones who caused it. Sorry, I was reading the questions. Jaden, why do they dislike Japan? Well, so there's the historical side of things, but then there's also the side that they're trying to use history. So you find this with a lot of dictators, right? Whenever you see Putin justifying the invasion of Ukraine, he talks about the historical sense of the relationship between Ukraine and Russia. When Xi Jinping, when the Chinese Communist Party talks about invading Taiwan, they're historically saying that, Taiwan is blah, blah, blah. They're using history to justify certain aspects of their attempt to dominate, right? This is not something that just they randomly come up with. It's because they know that history, it's not, for one, widely known to everybody, so it can confuse a lot of people. For two, it brings out a lot of those nationalistic, those patriotic feelings, and that's what the CCP does. Like when it comes to Japan, right? Japan invaded China, so the best thing to do is rile up the anger of the Chinese people, make them feel that nationalism, make them feel that need for patriotic actions in order to serve the country because they feel like they've been wronged by history, right? By Japan. So by always referring back to history, they really stick with that sense that there needs to be a change, and that change can only be drastic. And that's why you see the CCP always talking about history with Taiwan, the history with the South China Sea, the 100 years of humiliation, all these things. Same thing with Russia, right? Everybody wants to go back to history because they think that by using history, they can justify their actions of today. This is not, I'm not saying you shouldn't learn history, but at some point, the realistic approach is you move on from history because your generations of people different from the past, and you no longer have that tie, right? Like, if you're speaking clearly today, I have no grudge against a Japanese person just because they're Japanese, just because I'm Chinese, right? It doesn't work like that. Just as, it's a sensitive topic to talk about, but today's white people don't have a guilt towards the wrongdoings of slavery, right? It's like, why are you forcing people to repent on something that they clearly, when they were born, they have nothing to do with 100 or 200 years ago. Why are you forcing people to be you have to pay me back, or you have to justify certain things because it was done, 100 years ago, right? I think that's the ridiculous part. Belarov, didn't China mention about promoting world peace and advocating tolerance? Yeah, China always does this. They say one thing and they do another. They're we have to promote world peace. We have to, peace talk with Ukraine and Russia. We have to peace talk with the Middle East. And look what they've done, nothing. And yet inside the Chinese system of education, they're actively promoting hate. Question from Hiroshi Nagoya says, please make clear the PRC did not fight the Japanese and Taiwan was one facing the Japanese. Yeah, so the Nationalist Party, for those of you who don't know, is called the KMT. KMT. So during the Second World War, let me find it. Where would this be a good picture to show? This is a good one. Okay, so during the Second World War, the CCP, which was led by Mao Zedong, and the KMT actually had two alliances. Okay, here. So that's the alliance between the KMT and the CCP. But when the KMT was fighting the Japanese, the CCP, what they were doing was they were hiding in the countryside. They were growing opium, and they were readying their forces. So they got people to join them because they were saying, we got a great cause, right? So after the Long March, essentially the Long March was escaping from the KMT capture of the CCP forces. They just hid in the countryside, and they just kind of laid there while the KMT was fighting the Japanese. So by the time the World War II invasion was over, Japan retreated. The KMT had already been they exhausted all of their fighting power, because they were busy fighting the Japanese. So the CCP at this point was full of fighting forces. They had all the equipments, the gears, the strength, the energy, everything. And then so that's how they defeated the KMT and drove them to Taiwan. So one of the big mistakes of the KMT is that they did the alliance with China, the Chinese Communist Party, and the United Front, which is saying that, let's ally together against Japan, except the CCP didn't really do much in that process. So that's a little bit of the history between the two places. Now, question from the Brown says, what are the Asian version of Freemasons? I don't think there is one. Yeah, I don't think there is one. I might be wrong though. Who knows? All right. Okay, let's go on to more of this stuff. So we talked about that. Did this? Oh yeah. So this is now. People are saying how, oh yeah, is it all Chinese people are like this? They're indoctrinated. They hate Japan. Well, that's not the case. After that girl, the boy, the 10-year-old was killed. People came and then they gave flowers to pay tribute to the boy, and people are clearly trying to say that not everybody is like this, right? And the thing is, where this happened is Shenzhen. So Shenzhen is like a big city in the south. It's very close to Hong Kong. It's the starting point of China's reform and opening up. So it was one of the big cities that first were introduced to Western ideas back in the 80s. So it's very progressive in that sense. Yet this happened there. So you can see that and it also happened on a very important date, which is September 18th. So September 18th is like the day of shame in China, which basically that's the day that Japan started the invasion of Manchuria. But not everybody's like the guy, right? They come out and then they pay tribute to the boy. And this is I forgot to show you this. So this is a good comparison. This is what the kids in Japan are learning, to how to walk the streets, right? In Japan, actually the education system in Japan, it's very focused on early learning. I think most countries do. And then the Chinese version of early learning is carrying bomb backpacks, wearing soldier outfits, and hoping one day to become a patriotic soldier and to sacrifice themselves for the greater goods of the country. And the thing is, if you ever have a chance to work with the Japanese people, they're some of the hardest working people today. They're very responsible for their jobs. Like some of the most I respect some of the most, the people that I respect the most, I should say, is Japanese and the Philippines. I had a lot of friends growing up who were Filipino, so I really got to know them, and they're really hardworking people. And the Japanese, I just recently got to work with a few companies, and they're really dedicated. So I couldn't say, unfortunately, I can't say the same about a lot of the Chinese companies, as you guys might know. Setme says, I just came back from the Philippines, and if anybody knows about the Japanese atrocities, they destroyed the nation for almost 4 years. And if you go to Manila, in Fort Santiago, there is a white cross. No, totally. The Imperial Japanese were terrible people, right? There's all of those experiments, all of those, Nanking Massacre. It's bad. It's really bad, right? It's terrible. And they did a number on the Asian countries. This is also another one. They're just endless. The kids, they're taught to use bayonets on these straw Japanese soldiers, learn how to throw grenades, ride tanks. The Philippines got the short end of the stick for like 300 odd years of imperial expansion from Spain, the US, and Japanese. And here's the thing, right? You don't hear the Filipino government being like, oh, we must feel oppressed and resist all of the influences from Japan, Spain, China, or the US, right? You see the Philippines working with what they've got, making the best out of the situation. And today, the Philippines are more respected in Asia than the CCP is, for the sake that they actually uphold the values, right? And that they have a democratic system. There are flaws, there's corruptions, a lot of issues, but they demonstrate that what you can do is not focus on victimhoods. It's not focus on your history of being, oppressed. Even though the Philippines has probably one of the worst histories in terms of being invaded by, China, Spain. The United States later came and all of these things, right? Same thing with the Koreans, right? The Koreans were also heavily oppressed. Now, to some extent, the Koreans are very much, still holding the grudge against the Japanese for right reasons. But the Koreans, they're a technologically advanced country. They're a democracy today. So it's like you have to look past these things if you want to move on. The CCP is deliberately not doing that, clearly. Daniel Cabeza says, you know why? Because we're resilient. Yeah, of course. Kage says, is that a video like a day in the life of a field trip for school children? So in China, you do like mandatory, not a military training, but like a basic training, basically. In high school, in middle school, and then in college too. So you do that. In elementary school, what you do is you do these like red scarf events or red, like the thing that they wear around their neck, right? You go for basically, instead of field trips where we go see a park, they might take you to a patriotic educational site. And then, you get to participate in these type of activities to pretend to fight off the Japanese for a day. That's the childhood of a Chinese kid. This is that. And then this is the product, or I guess you could say what happens when the kid grows up. This is like a daily occurrence in China. You have a lot of those like old veterans too in China who constantly just whip out the uniform and start to recite these like Cultural Revolution-esque messages, and they're like, comrade, backflip time. VT says, David, are you in the video as a kid? So, my story when I was young, as a freshly, just out of kindergarten kid into elementary school. Because in grade 1, you go to the ceremony where they put the red scarf on everybody, on every little kid, right? You wear your uniform. I was the, what would you even call that? I was the athletic, so the structure of a Chinese classroom is you have the class president, right? The class president is kind of like the CCP official of the class. So you have the teacher, and then when the teacher's not there, the class president is like, the little, I guess you would say it would be the youth communist leader, right, of the classroom. And then under him, you have this like structure of, here, maybe I can draw this. Is there like a paint online? Maybe I can show you guys what this is like, okay? This is Chinese Classroom 101. Okay, so you have so this is my classroom, okay? My Chinese classroom. So you have the class president. Is there a way to type this? Gosh, this thing sucks. How do I type? Can I type? Okay, yeah, okay. So class president. Okay. So you got the class president, right? And then down here you have, I would say maybe like 4 branches of the vice president. So there's the VP of sports. That was me. Okay. Then you have the VP of cleaning. You have the VP of like class affairs. And then you have the VP of Red Scarf. Okay, so basically the role of the class president is you are responsible for things like attendance, things like how well the students do. Usually the class president is the one that has the highest testing score, right? Just 1 second. Our citizens, thanks for the 5, is that euro or francs? Do you think Kamala Harris is trying to push in communism like China? From what I know so far, it seems like Kamala Harris is, at least on paper, looking kind of like the same as the Biden administration when it comes to the rhetorics, at least. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. I don't want to make the conclusion right now. I know everybody talks about her as Kamala, Comrade Kamala, but I want to reserve my opinion on that. Young Wilson, thanks for the $2 for art school. I should be in art school. Okay, so the class president, the smartest kid, responsible for all of the academic stuff. VP Sports, basically my job in the whole communist caste system at the classroom level was that I had a whistle, and every time we did like the morning, what are they called, like the morning stretches and all the morning exercises and stuff, I would be the one with the whistle, and I go like that. So I get everybody in unison. It's all about the uniformity. The VP of cleaning. So every day after school, you have a few kids who stay behind and you clean the classroom. You mop the floor, you sweep mop, and then you wash the windows, wipe down the blackboards and things like that. And then you have a VP of class affairs. So this is anything like random, like somebody have a fight, or you need to go contact the principal or whatever else. It's like the runner. And then you have the VP of Red Scarf, which basically like checks your uniforms and things like that. And I also believe they do like the flag raising. So me being like, 6, 7 years old and being assigned the VP, like the vice president of the class on sports, like I felt so good, right? Except I was like really athletically challenged when I was younger. So I couldn't, do anything like sports, like basketball, anything like that when I was like in elementary school. The only thing I could do is run. And so I was like, that was the only thing, because we had like a yearly school track meet, right? So I could run like the 100 meters or the 90 meters or something like that. So I was the VP of sports. But yeah, you felt so proud back then, wearing like the red scarf, and they're like, yeah, from this day on, you get to, be loyal to the party and stuff. Now, if you really think about it, like, that's just pure indoctrination from a young age. It's like the Communist Youth League. When you get older, or the Young Pioneer, that's what it was called when you're like in elementary school. So yeah, that is my little stick figure drawing of what happens in Chinese classrooms. Oh man. Wait, did I spell it wrong? Oh, it's affairs? Okay, let me change it. Wait, it won't let me change it. My bad. I think it's stuck. It won't let me change it. It's a forever class affairs. Oh man. Depso asks, have you experienced TOEFL classroom walls? I didn't. So funny thing is, I didn't experience that because I went to school in like a very, very small town where everything is like pretty freshly built. Okay, so before we move on to some other stuff, let me talk about my merch website. If you're new here and you haven't heard about it, so we have davidzhang.net. I'll put in the chat. And I will pin this, if it lets me. Pin message. davidzhang.net. Pin message. If you're looking to check out some of China Insider's merch, make sure to go to davidzhang.net. And if you're looking to support our channel, this is a great way to do so. We have our bestseller, the Tofu Drag Specialist hat. This shirt here, designed by me, called CIA Paid for This. We got things like the Big Brother mug. We have a desk mat here, and this shirt is awesome. I have one of these shirts, Awesome My Country. Comes in all sorts of different colors. So if you want to show off China Insider merch swags, come check out davidzhang.net. Link is in the description. All right. Okay, where were we? Oh yeah, so China's actually releasing a movie next year called 731, which is, I believe, the team 731 that did all those secret experiments in China. Unit 731. Unit 731. So it is a Manchu Detachment 731 known as Kamo Detachment and the Ishi Unit, and was a covert biological and chemical warfare research and development unit of the Imperial Japanese Army that engaged in lethal human experimentation and biological weapons manufacturing during the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II. And estimates vary as to how many were killed between 1936 to 1945. Roughly 14,000 victims were murdered in Unit 731. It's estimated that at least 300,000 individuals have died due to infectious illnesses caused by the activities of Unit 731. So China's making a whole movie about this, okay? They're not, like, they refuse to let this go. Now, this is not for the overseas audience. This is for the domestic audience to watch. They love this stuff. If you're watching on other platforms like Instagram and stuff like that, sorry if I'm not paying too much attention. We're just simultaneously streaming on all these different platforms. And if you're watching on Twitch as well, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. All right, VT, have a good one. From HH, any thoughts on the phenomenon of many Taiwanese women marrying Chinese men? Of course, it's because the Chinese men are rich, but still they chose money over the national pride. Yeah, so a lot of people in Taiwan, not just girls, like a lot of merchants as well, they've been in China for a very long time because China had a lot of money to be made, more than they could in Japan, in Taiwan. So I think like it's unfortunate, but that's basically what it is. It's money. From Doff says, hello David, I've been wondering if you read Min Shinpei's book, The Sentinel State, analyzing the Chinese security apparatus and its history, such as the hukou. I have not read that book, but the things that you're mentioning here, they're very much control apparatuses built up to keep people categorized. So the hukou system, for those of you guys who don't know, it's like a Chinese caste system. Essentially, if you're born in the city, or if you're rich enough to locate to the city, like Shanghai or Beijing, it affects everything from like your ability to get a lower test score and still make it to college. It lets your kids go to certain schools in the district. It gives you certain benefits. It's basically like your residence location determines your somewhat levels of the future. So if you have a urban hukou, which is like a urban residence registration, your chance of success is much higher. If you have a rural hukou or the rural registration, even if you want to go into the city, you want to get like an apartment or a job or anything like that, it's almost like you're think of it like if you're working on a visa versus you're working on a green card or as a citizen, right? So you enjoy more benefit with that hukou system if you're in the urban area. So it's really a big discrimination in China between the rural population and the urban population. Minhai asks, where is the class VP of anti-Japanese propaganda? That's the teacher's job. Sorry, I'm like, can't read right now apparently. From Dylan Baker, 2 questions. Are you Chinese, and do other Chinese people call you a race traitor? Question 1, I am Chinese. Second one, people call me a banana, but I'm pretty sure I did a video on this. I don't really understand how that's derogatory. But anyways. From Big Homie Bobs, did you see China confirm that the doggos weren't pandas? No. China admitted that they're not pandas. They were doggo. Like, apparently that's like the real attraction, which is dogs painted as pandas, not as pandas. The collector 57. Well, they also said they never claimed they were legitimate pandas in the first place. Yeah, so I addressed this question, right? They don't like that's their plausible deniability. They say that we never claimed it's pandas. But it's like if you're really going to a zoo, are you there to see pandas or are you there to see panda dogs? You know, the idea is that you're a kid, you want to see pandas, you don't want to see panda dogs. So in order for people to kind of remain attracted to that zoo, they needed to fill the void. Jonathan says, you're the coolest banana I know. Thank you. Messi Roy 1234 says, David, are you parents Christian? You know David is king of Israelites. So I'll actually tell you this. My Chinese name is hard to pronounce for many people. So David is actually the name I came up with on the spot when I was registering for school. So yeah, like I actually, because that's when I first came to the U.S. to schools. So I had no idea that David was actually very much a biblical name until much later on. I learned that David is a very biblical name. But at that point I had been David for, a few years, so I never changed it. And it kind of grows on me, so. Rajesh from Microsoft says, banana is supposed to be derogatory towards Asians in the same way that the term coconut is offensive towards black people. Yeah, but I've never seen people being like, oh, you're a coconut, or sorry, you're a banana, and be like me getting offended by it. So, I don't know. Depso says, I currently live in a Southeastern Asian country. People call me Chinks. What is a banana? I know, right? I've never heard of that. Okay. So the funny thing is, after Japan, experienced the 10-year-old boy was stabbed, China was quick to go 180. Because remember last year, they were boycotting the Japanese seafood because the Fukushima nuclear water release, right? The treatment water was being released. So China did a big fuss on this. Like their state media was saying that we can never trust Japan's numbers. The Japanese, even though like the International Nuclear Agency came out and saying that Japan's water levels are safe, it's not gonna, contaminate the environment. China didn't care. They're like, no, we're boycotting. So they actually banned Japanese seafood imports. But then after this 10-year-old boy died, they were like, oh, by the way, it's backfiring on us in terms of how much of the international attention we're getting because, we're constantly teaching people propaganda about hating Japan. That they're like, okay, we're just going to say that the Japanese Fukushima plant is okay now. Okay, so Japan and China reached a deal where basically they will agreement in a year-long, so after the year-long dispute, they're going to eventually start to accept Japan's monitoring of the water results, and they're lifting the seafood embargo. Okay, so it literally happened a day or two after this whole incident with the 10-year-old boy. And it makes you wonder because during the foreign ministry press conference, everybody was asking the foreign ministry spokesperson in China, saying that, do you still call this case an isolated incident? This is the third case of foreigners in China being attacked this year. And I guess the CCP really couldn't take the public opinion pressure anymore. Then they're like, oh yeah, suddenly we're okay with Japan's seafood. When a year ago they were saying that it's poisonous, it's radiated with nuclear waste. You shouldn't eat Japanese seafood. Suddenly it's a 180 turn. You can eat Japanese seafood now. What gives? It's pretty hilarious. MVC says, where did you learn how to speak fluent English, by the way? I came when I was young, so speaking English is you learn a lot of stuff when you're young pretty fast. Rad Gamer asks, are you Taiwanese? No, I'm not Taiwanese. I'm Chinese. Aaron Thompson says, I'm new to your channel. Can you tell me why you started exposing China? Yeah, I felt like it's a mission of mine because from China, I care about the people. So I really wanted to, put my part of the contribution because a lot of people in China don't have a voice to tell the stories, and I can be one for them to tell the Western audience what's going on. HH says, to be honest, a deal like this doesn't happen overnight. This is probably coincidental that was going to happen. Yeah, except until last month, they were still saying things like, we can never trust Japan's test results, right? So you don't, like as China, you got to remember the CCP is all about their face, right? Saving face, protecting their image. They don't just do this a day after this event where a 10-year-old is attacked because he's Japanese, and then decide to like, hey, we're just gonna reach a deal with Japan and publicly release it. You know, it's too coincidental in my view. Mihai says, hey David, what are your thoughts on the Confucius Institutes across Europe? Do you think they're a platform for placing spies? Not necessarily spies, but they do influence people, give them a false perception of China. Because when you go learn English from these Confucius Institutes, you're taught a curriculum that's approved by the Chinese government. Often it's also working alongside the Chinese embassy of the place that you're at. So if you're in Paris, for example, the Chinese embassy of Paris. If you're in the UK, maybe the London embassy. So they work hand in hand with the Chinese government to curate this curriculum where they definitely want to tell the China story well, and they are taught certain things you're not allowed to say when you're in the Confucius Institute. Certain sensitive topics like maybe Tibet, maybe Falun Gong, maybe the Uyghurs, the white paper protests. These things, the topics, they don't come up when you're learning Chinese. And they say everything positive about China, because the teachers that are hired to come to these Confucius Institutes, they're made to sign this agreement saying that you will not teach them all the bad things in China, and you're only to teach them about the good things of China. Living Dead Girl says, very, very strange. You have it set up where certain words are automatically deleted. Is this because it's China you're talking about? Did you do this or YouTube? I'm not so sure what you're talking about. Samurai Runis says, do you think China will disintegrate if she continues like USSR? Yeah, I think if he goes down to the path of Stalin, I think it's pretty dangerous. I think for the party, that he's going to ruin it, which is a good thing for the rest of the world, obviously, but there's that. And then, okay, so I also found this funny video I wanted to share with you guys. Okay, so the context is this guy he's like trying to save money, right? He bought a piece of pork, and he's gonna make 5 dishes out of it.
放日丝瓜翻炒一下下水，待5分钟就煮开啦，放点盐就可以啦。肥肉丝瓜汤做好了，把肉夹出来，把猪皮剥开，再把肉切成片。 放入锅中，继续煸炒出油，煸够就可以了。放入蒜末、小米辣，炒一下，放入花菜，继续翻炒一下，放盐、蚝油，翻炒一下就可以出锅了。把肉继续挑出来，赶来第3班车，把它切成条，放入碗中。锅热，继续放入肉，继续翻炒出油，放入韭菜，韭菜比较容易熟，翻炒一下就可以。肉炒韭菜就炒好啦。 再把肉继续挑出来，切成小块块。今天肉有点多了，又吃不完了，那把它放入锅中，继续翻炒出油。放入土豆、胡萝卜，翻炒一下，加入调料，继续翻炒一下，下点水，烧开就可以出锅啦。再把肉粒继续挑出来，把肉继续吹碎，这样更容易入味。锅里来煎豆腐，把豆腐两面炸至金黄。样不对，应对里是够了。
Wait, are you mewing right now? No, I'm always mewing. My face is mewing. No, I'm trying to drink this coffee, but it's like really bitter towards the end, so that's why my face is like that. But yeah, romanticizing poverty. That's like pretty real. Like it's entertainment, but also at the same time, it's a reality in China. A lot of people apparently are saving money. They're like, yeah, we got to do this. So watch till the end.
炸好放入芹菜、蒜末、辣椒。 肉翻炒一下，放入酱油、蚝油、盐，继续翻炒。豆腐肉粒就做好啦，把肉继续挑出来。
Why she keep cooking? Because she wants to save money on meat. Because meat is expensive.
蒸5分钟，放入瘦肉末，再蒸个1分钟就可以出锅啦。撒上葱花，一家5口的午餐
And it feeds the whole family. 5 people in the
放学回来都很饿，吃饭了不说了。
6 dishes.
愿你我尽其欢，何为苦乐多呢？此生也迷茫，为了随影响。
So one piece of meat you can eat for the whole family. You can feed for the entire family. Every dish gets a little taste of the meat, except for the last dish actually containing the meat. So that's a piece of pork. And then I saw one, this is for a piece of a lamb, also another piece of meat.
请师傅来练。今天做一小块羊肉3吃，羊肉有点贵，本来想买1斤的，想来想去就买了一小块羊肉，我觉得也够了。放入姜片，放入辣椒，炒羊肉气，加入3笼小米辣，倒入水果椒，再倒入大葱，翻炒2下，再加入盐，再翻炒几下。 就可以出锅了。第一个菜，葱姜炒羊肉，香气扑鼻，菜入味了。再把羊肉
So that's dish number 1.
还可以做得更好，油不能浪费。刚刚这块羊肉下锅，入姜片，再加入水，倒入白萝卜，倒入鲜菇、生粗。 入枸杞，入大蒜瓣，入水果、红椒，加盖20分钟，打开盖子，羊肉汤 OK 了，放入小葱、香菜。你说这羊肉
Second dish, you got a lamb soup.
我都流口水了。把这个羊肉再拿出来，继续加热，
Takes it out
把
again.
羊肉分成小段儿。再 OK， 把羊肉串分成小段儿，炒入水果椒。OK。 趁油锅下锅，翻炒2下，3至5分钟就可以出锅了。白芝麻、辣椒粉。第一次喝这样的酒，白酒配可乐，来一杯快乐水。
So one piece of pork, you can do 3 dishes here. Or sorry, one piece of lamb, you can do 3 dishes. How expensive is meat in China? Meat is really expensive in China, especially pork. It's quite expensive in China. But the point of the video, right? It's like this is supposed to be an entertainment type of video where it's like so. According to this guy, he is doing a 250 yuan challenge, which essentially is 250 yuan. How much is that? 250 yuan to US dollars. It's $35 for a month of living expense. So obviously, you know, if a piece of a little bit of a meat, whether that's lamb or pork, cost you like I don't know, $1 or $2, and you can get 6 dishes out of it, or you can get like, you know, however many dishes out of it. It's pretty worth, right? So it's like the reality though is that Chinese spending has downgraded. A lot of people are not spending as much money. They're not going out to eat expensive restaurants. So it is both. It's a funny thing that they're doing this for entertainment, but it's also a reality because some people do live like this. And especially if you got a large family to feed, you know, when it's expensive in China, you got to do what you got to do. And they're making the best out of it because the dishes actually look pretty delicious. Therexis asks, how is pork expensive? That's wild. It's usually easiest, cheapest to mass produce. I don't actually know the reason why, because I've always, like, even when I was young, my parents, grandparents, they always said pork is expensive. Like, they just, maybe because certain amount of pork is imported from the US? I'm not so sure, actually. Tickle Timpson says, opinions on the panda dogs? Yeah, I talked about it earlier. I think it's more like those things. It's false advertisement. But again, you know, it's fake panda, essentially. Hey, David Zhang, what do you think about the rep scene? A few months ago, the biggest Asian panda buy was raided. I thought you would talk about it because I didn't see anything on your channel. You're talking about like replicas of like real things, like shoes and watches and things like that. If you're talking about that, I think it's inevitable that it's going to happen, but not for the reason that we think it would be. I think I believe, like, on paper, Chinese illegal counterfeits are always illegal, like in the sense that if you run in with the authorities, they will catch you. Just like how, like, prostitution is illegal in China, right? They do these, like, prostitution ring busts all the time in China. It doesn't mean the things continue, like, it stops. It still continues. So I don't expect the rep scene, if that's what you're talking about, to suddenly cease to exist. More sellers will pop up, and I think that's just how it is. Hey David, fake panda dogs, but it's cute. Yeah, they're super cute too. EM, thanks for the $10. Thank you for the unique videos. It's really interesting. Thank you so much. Okay, so you got a oops.
背600。
You got that. And then I found this video too, which is absolutely weird. So this is a plate of pork. Supposedly it's pork ribs, okay? But then the guy is like, I keep finding skin on my pork ribs. Okay, so usually if you ever had any pork ribs or pork cutlets, or I guess they were called pork riblets or short ribs, there's no skin on them. Like there's no a thick flap of skin. Except for this one, apparently. So you see how this is the pork portion, right? So that's the pork rib. Then there's like a slab of skin on here. He says it looks like chicken skin. And then so they went and they asked the servers what happened.
然后上面是鸡皮。
Yeah, look at that. It looks like a layer of skin. Okay?
跟吃别的吧。
And so it's really weird. And I think at one point, oh yeah, this is a good picture. Why is it? No, it's buffering. Let me refresh it.
下边的下边的这个。
So they took out the actual pork ribs, and then they compare it. Like the bottom here looks okay, but then the top layer here is kind of strange. I don't know. Am I just not reading this right? I don't think the pork riblets are supposed to have a thick, like slab of skin on
这个
top.
排骨呢是手指头这么粗，上面的呢是筷子这么粗。咱都不是小孩儿，别说这个事儿，这事儿吧，你说的不算，我说的不算，有地方能说的算，行吗？所以我为什么要录这些东西？我要保留一下证据。
It's very interesting. I don't know. They're accusing it of being some sort of a combination meat or like a fusion meat or like, you know, like two kind of meat slapped together, glued together. Who knows what happens? But it's China, so. Spectrum Brett says, David, do you think this is relatable and best for girls trying to get skinny to wear 4-year-old clothes? I don't know what you're talking about. The actual bones look like they're different sizes, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Everything seems weird in this one. I really don't know. I don't know what's going on. From Krithik Raj, hey David, I'm from India. I feel it's pretty hard that China is still making mess land acquisition in various lands, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Myanmar. Can you see your take on behavior? So one of the danger that the CCP, the danger of the CCP expanding westwards towards like where India is that in sort of the geopolitical here, it's better to show a map than and talk about it on the map, I think. Okay. All right. So let's go to India. Okay. So we're in India, right? So this is China. This is India. The westward expansion is clear because it goes through the One Belt, One Road, and it goes to countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, you know, all the way down to the Mediterranean Sea. So that's one of the Belt and Road Initiative path, right? Because China wants access to trading routes along these countries. You have allies like Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, etc. So these pretty typical inroad expansion. Now down the south, China also has another route, which is through the Tibetan area, Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar. And what they're trying to do is open an access through Myanmar in the Bay of Bengal or the Indian Ocean, because the key here is this, okay? So this area, right? This is the South China Sea up top here. If there was something like a geopolitical event in the region, which is, say, China goes to war with the Philippines or goes to war with Taiwan, one of the possibility is the United States would do a blockade here across the Strait of Malacca. Excuse me. So the Strait of Malacca is basically where all of the traffic, all of the shipping traffic from the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean, through Europe, Africa, everybody, you know, comes through to go to the South China Sea. So if there's a blockade here, that would block China's effective supplies, the supply route, which means China's cut off once they decide to move on Taiwan or the Philippines or Japan or anybody else, you know. So the way for China to avoid this is if they open up a route through Myanmar up here. This route allows China to do inroad shipping through Yunnan up to China. So they avoid the blockade here completely. That's why China has a continuous western expansion and a continuous southwest expansion. At the same time, they can put pressure on India. And that's what one of their plans are for you know, it's almost like a supplier, adding another supply route to the situation. From Sebastian, so Sebastian Bernard, thanks for the $5. What do you think the people of China could do to improve their country's condition? Love seeing a fellow immigrant being so successful. Keep it up, bro. So Sebastian is actually a friend of mine from when we used to hang out. Thanks, Sebastian. So the question is really important. I think the issue is that China's conditions won't improve fundamentally unless the government is gone. The CCP is gone. Because I think a lot of, like, I would say 95% of the issues would resolve itself once China is liberated, like, from the CCP. Sounds pretty cliche, but that's really the fundamental, like, issue here. Alfred Chang, always wondering if you have any personal reasons for you to do content for these channels. Personal reason? Yeah, I guess it's a passion of mine. I really find this stuff interesting. From Dear Anna, David, what do you think about China's relationship with Russia and Ukraine? China obviously wants the war to continue because the longer it goes, the more the West is distracted and the more resources will be expended, and so it's good for everybody else. So definitely China is in it with Russia and they want the war to continue. Ho Nguyen says, actually, they can always move around Australia. It's just not sustainable. Well, basically, shipping is all about speed, right? If you do anything like you go down to Australia, you're effectively traveling so much that it doesn't make sense. And a lot of these shipping companies rely on getting to places within the time frame. That's why the Strait of Malacca is very much the key here through the South China Sea. So, yeah. Anything else? Okay, last video here. This again shocked me. So this is a guy who tests 3 types of carrots. So he bought one kind from the stores, which are cleaned and washed. A second kind he bought from the stores, which seems to not be cleaned, it's filled with dirt, and the third from a regular farmer's market, which has dirt on them. Okay. So what he's testing here is if any of these 3 have been soaked in formaldehyde, which is a chemical supposedly to kill, you know, the bacteria or whatever it kills. And he's going to use this testing kit to test for the levels of formaldehyde, the concentration of it, in each of these 3 types of carrots. So I'm going to fast forward. So basically he just prepares them and puts a little capsule in there, okay? So here's what he does. He has the 3 capsules. Okay, so the first one, this is the middle one, which is, actually, I forgot which one this is. I shouldn't have skipped so far.
10分钟到了，下面就是见证奇迹的时刻了啊！咱们把3个白盒打开，咱先打。
Okay, so that's the leftover one. So this one he bought it from a farmer's market.
大家看一下颜色啊，基本没什么变化。咱们对比一下它这个甲醛色卡。
So formaldehyde level very low. Very low.
根据它的判定方法，应该没问题，属于安全范围，可以忽略不计。第二个，咱们打超市里带泥的。
So this is the supermarket one in the middle that has some dirt on it.
大家看一下颜色啊，已经变深了。咱们对比一下色卡。
So that one has pretty high levels of formaldehyde.
应该在1.5左右。最后咱们来看一下这不带泥的。
And these are the clean ones from the supermarket.
我去，
Same thing, still
这个
high
颜色比
amounts
这
of
个颜色还深一
formaldehyde.
点。咱们也最后对比一下啊，应该差不多1.7左右吧。两种胡萝卜都是严重的甲醛超标。
Okay, so the thing is, right, I saw this video before and I didn't believe it. Basically, people in China, they get these carrots, they put a bunch of random chemicals on them, and then they put the dirt on them as if, you know, they just got freshly taken out of the dirt. Like, look at this. So they're spraying a bunch of stuff on it, and then they treat them with the chemicals, right? And then they mix them with the dirt so that it looks like it's still fresh from the dirt. It's not being, you know, treated with chemicals. It's not clean. That's what they do. They essentially fake the origin of these things. Look at that. And now it makes sense because we've seen this video where they add formaldehyde into the carrots from the supermarket. So, yep, that's... So I read on formaldehyde here, actually, if you take a look. So this is from the Hong Kong Food Safety Administration. Formaldehyde should not be used in fresh vegetables. You won't find this in any grocery stores in the U.S. It's just simply not supposed to be used for fresh produce, but it's used mainly in mainland China. And the purpose here, I believe, is to what is it for? Also be used as fungicides or preservative in cosmetics. So I don't know if it does some of that, you know, killing in produce stuff, but it does seem like it's a very toxic thing to put on your vegetables, especially the fact that you can test for this. But in Hong Kong, when they're imported, they're testing for this, for the samples. So anything they find with positive formaldehyde, they won't use. But inside mainland China, this happens a lot. Charles Womack, thanks to the $5. David, Zhongguo means center kingdom, or does it mean China? So Zhongguo means the center kingdom or the middle kingdom. It's supposed to represent the center of the world back in the days. China is, I don't even know what China means actually. China just, I think was I don't know. Zhongguo is supposed to be the correct term. Really says, yo, David, I love your content, by the way. Great job, bro. What do you think it will be the extent of the backlash the West Taiwan will face if they were ever to invade and Southeast Asian countries? I think the international pressure would be great. So the CCP is making tremendous amount of preparation in case that happens. You know, things like fighting off sanctions. It's going to get worse than what's happening in Russia if they do invade. So. Michael, David, what video is best to show my Chinese girlfriend to disillusion her and convince her of the facade? Check out my China Fakes Everything series. You can find them on my channel. That does a great deal for waking people up. Soundsaber says, do vegetable cleaners work? They have lots of surfactants, but I don't know if they work better on pesticides and herbicides versus formaldehyde. Yeah, formaldehyde is water soluble, I believe, because it's not a oil. It's not a formaldehyde. As long as it's not a, let's see, organic compound with chemicals, CH. Actually, it might be an organic compound, so you might have to dissolve it in some type of, wait, I forgot all my chemistries. Anybody that knows chemistry can tell me if this is water soluble or is it you have to dissolve it in another, like, what do you even call those things? I'm forgetting all about my organic chemistry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. That might be something you want to ask people who are in the industry. It's used to make resin, so I think it probably is not like a water soluble thing. Must not be. Keep it up, bro. Chat, remember David Zhang is not suicidal. Mohammed Hassan says, hey David, I'm Hassan from Pakistan. What do you think of China? Pakistan Economic Corridor and the Chinese investment under this initiative. I hope that the Pakistani people can understand that China really does this only for the benefit of China. Now, in the short term, it might look like it's beneficial for Pakistan. I do wish the U.S. and other countries would step up to help out Pakistan so that it doesn't have as much reliance on China. But I think, you know, over time there needs to be less and less reliance on China from Pakistan because, you know, at the end of the day, I think you watching this, you recognize that the CCP is really only in it for their own gains. Like I mentioned, it's to get through, you know, the Middle East and to reach into the Mediterranean Sea in their One Belt, One Road. And they're trying to use countries like Pakistan for the benefit of, you know, displacing the US and others. So I don't think their intents are so pure. Okay, yeah, so if it's water soluble, then you can definitely use something like I think washing it is probably sufficient. You legit thought those were YouTube Shorts cam class at first? Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at formaldehyde. All right, I think I'm going to end the stream here. I'm going to go grab some lunch. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's stream. Make sure to come back every Saturday. We do a stream for 1 hour or more on Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, hope you guys have fun. This was fun for me. Let me know what you guys want to talk about the next topic. Let me know in the comments. And thanks for checking out the channel. Also check out my merch if you're interested in repping some China Insider goods on in your daily lives. All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.